All right, he's the son of a former governor of Florida and related to two former presidents. I recently had the chance to catch up with the Texas Land Commissioner, George P. Bush, out in Texas about his political future.
I've been privileged to serve as land commissioner for the last 6 years, but we need new leadership in this high statewide executive role.
And you're hoping to run for?
I'm taking a very serious look at Attorney General.
And when would you make that decision?
Well, right now, as I mentioned, we're so focused on fixing the winter grid, pushing back the overreach, working on during this legislative session, but expect an announcement fairly soon.
How about now? Last night, he made it official, announcing his candidacy for Texas Attorney General and setting up what surely will be a closely watched race in the Lone Star State. George P. Bush, the land commissioner, joins us now. George, I guess those other things worked out. Why are you jumping in against another Republican now?
Well, for many years now, Texans know that their top cop has been under securities fraud indictment and very concerned about that. And last November, it became clear with 8 of his top lieutenants alleging everything from bribery to corruption that many at the grassroots level in our state want a change in leadership. And so part of my argument is I'm a conservative advocate for the state of Texas, but without the baggage. And I've brought the state's interest to the courthouse several times on behalf of the 13 million acres that I represent for the school children of Texas. I bring a legal background to the table, and I'm excited to go down to the border today to talk about the lax Biden border policies that's resulted in the largest surge of illegal immigration in modern American history.
So you're not saying that Ken Paxton's done a bad job. You just think the corruption charges, which he's under a felony indictment over accusation of defrauding investors and accused of bribery by his 8 former aides. It's those issues, the behavior aside from the job, that says this is the time for you to jump in.
Yes. I mean, I think this is about the fitness, the competence of running the state's most important law firm. There are 4,200 full-time employees with a budget of over $660 million, and it requires somebody to be above reproach. It's really hard to claim the moral high ground on issues like human trafficking and illegal immigration and backing the thin blue line in our state if you yourself are facing significant criminal investigations and allegations. And so my argument is, look, I've been a servant to this country. I served in the military for 10 years. I've served the state of Texas as its land commissioner, managing its assets, protecting the federal overreach that we've seen on the oil and gas industry. I'm prepared and I'm ready to take this fight to D.C.
Are you concerned about dividing the party? Because this will be a tough battle. I know Senator Cornyn, he's very respected in Texas. He's staying out of it, it seems. And the governor, what's Governor Abbott's reaction?
So I've talked to both the governor and the lieutenant governor at the end of the session. We just wrapped up our session on Memorial Day, and they are concerned about the behavior. They want the criminal investigation to play out. And I agree, let's let the FBI do their work. But in the meantime, I believe Texas Republicans should have a choice. Last night I talked about in 1976, Ronald Reagan running to the right of Gerald Ford, a sitting incumbent president, which, despite all odds, he thought it was important that Republicans have a choice in the wake of scandal. Because the status quo is not working in this particular office. It's a dysfunctional office. And that's why I think Texas Republicans should have a choice when it comes to their top cop.
True. For you, as land commissioner, some things that have been in the fray with you is brawling over the renovation of the Alamo. You and Dan Patrick were going at it for a while. But this is about $450 million, 5-year brawl. What do you say to people who think that maybe you're not giving history enough respect at the Alamo as you try to revamp that very popular historical site?
Well, the lieutenant governor and I have kissed and made up, and we're designing a much brighter future at the Alamo. The 1836 plan would bring back the battlefield to the way that it looked back in 1836, and that's what this whole discussion has been about. Now that we've reached an agreement with the Texas Historic Commission, the legislature just allocated $50 million, the county $25 million. So we are well on our way to some great days ahead on the grounds of the Alamo.
You're Attorney General now. If that moniker goes to you, one of the big things that Texans care about, so do Americans, it's what's happening at the border. I mean, we captured this video of people dropping 5-year-olds off who are screaming for some type of help from even a smuggler to come back. And then this was the story last night. I don't know if you have a monitor there, but this is a child begging for help. Listen. can you do in the state? 17,000 unaccompanied minors are here, let alone the kids that come with families. Where do you stand, George?
Well, we need Washington, D.C. to wake up. This is a crisis on our border. Texans are familiar with this issue. Generations after generations of farmers and ranchers now are dealing with yet another wave of illegal immigration. And it's because of the false promises that we've seen from this president, who still refuses to come down to the border. The governor's asked him to come down several times. This has resulted in one of the worst humanitarian crises. But it's because of mixed messages. If we can go back to the Trump policies of remain in Mexico, if we can close the loopholes that are in our immigration laws, we can be in a much better place where we were under the Trump days. And as Attorney General, I would advocate for those positions.
And you talked to the former president. Is he going to endorse you?
So we had a great conversation a few days ago. He sent me his best. He had great words of encouragement. We agree we've got to push back. You know, what's scary about this, Brian, is I think Bernie Sanders is probably the happiest person in Washington, D.C. right now. That's what he joked, and I agree with him. We've got a lot of work ahead, especially November 22, to take back the Congress and make sure we have the right players on the field so that we can beat the Democrats in the next cycle.
George P. Bush, a big move for you. And, of course, every time anybody in the Bush family moves for higher office, the world pays attention. George P. Bush, this is your time. Look forward to seeing your election and see how this plays out. Thanks.